Hello, welcome back to Fables Stan, and this is Kim. My hair is long enough to be on one side now, ooh, but it kind of has to be propped up by this like ginormous scarf that my best business buddy friend gifted me over Christmas. Pamela Chen, she's the creator of Crystal Unicorn Tarot. But anyway, so I wanted to make a quick video about not wanting to help people as a tarot reader. I know that sounds really cold-hearted. I know that sounds problematic, and you guys must be like, "What? I don't get. What are you saying, Kim?" Hear me out. So I'm gonna kind of just explore that a little bit. I sort of quickly mentioned it when I posted my previous two videos, which was about like my Biz Adventures. That was meant to be one video really, but it got too long, so I split it into two in case it became this giant elephantine creature that nobody wants to watch because it's like 50 minutes or something. But yeah, I quickly mentioned it in my Biz Adventures where I was talking about how my perspective and how my approach towards my business sort of changed throughout the years, and some of the also was like I was talking about the different business modes that I experimented. And I mentioned that I became a tarot reader, but I never really wanted to help people. And I felt kind of guilty about that, and I was like, I think that's an interesting topic because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who are feeling this way. And is it a bad thing if you don't want to help people as a card slinger? And what does it mean when you don't want to help people? So I kind of just want to explore that in this video. So I think there's a sense of guilt. Like I mentioned that I was feeling guilty about not wanting to help people. And it's not that I don't give a shit about people and I'm just, with all the sort of implicit reasons. If you do tarot and you don't want to help people, then are you just in it for the money? Are you just greedy? Are you giving tarot a bad name? Do you have some kind of other agenda? I think there's like some layers, kind of sort of just attached to the notion that I don't feel like helping people with my tarot readings. And for me personally, it's not that I don't want to help people, and it's not that I don't give a shit about people who say purchase my tarot readings or people who might become my clients or whatever. It's more like I don't really resonate with the role of being a spiritual counselor or being like a direct mentor or guide. And I mentioned in that video, in my previous business, in my previous two videos, that the reason why I do tarot, or the part that's really meaningful for me, is using my intuition to create a channeled piece of writing that I can give to people as a present. It's like a little chapter of their life that is more it's more about inspiring people for me. I know teaching and helping people is a way of inspiring, but for me, I mostly identify with the role of being an artist and a storyteller. And you know how people who tell stories, such as writers or different kinds of artists like dancers or painters, etc., they may have the intention of wanting to help people, but for them, I feel like the way they help people is through creating their art and inspiring other people with their art and with their message. So it's kind of like giving pieces of themselves and kind of just realizing them in the form of art, in any kind of art. It could be a piece of writing, could be like a painting, a sculpture, a jewelry or something. So it's not that they don't want to help people. I kind of just feel like it's a different role. Like they're not placing themselves or positioning themselves in the role of a counselor where someone is like a direct and really straightforward figure of, someone who gives wisdom, someone who shares wisdom, someone who would take into account of your story and then gives you advice or helps you get grounded, helps you heal, etc. So I think when I say, or when maybe people feel like they don't really want to help people, I think it's coming from that place. So if you're sort of like resonating with this, if you're feeling like a little guilty about not wanting to help people, but also wanting to be involved in a tarot community in some way, even making a living out of it, I feel like you just have to explore what your role is and how you want to show up in the world. Because just because you don't want to help people, just because you don't want to be a be in a position of, counseling or being a mentor or guide doesn't mean what you do isn't inherently helpful to others. You know what I mean? And that's sort of like where I'm coming from. And I think I want to, also explore this idea of guilt. Like earlier I said that I think there's a lot of sort of questions attached to, when you present the notion that, oh, I don't really want to help people. I don't really want to be of service. I think there's all that, people might think you're a little bit shady, right? People might think, are you just doing this for the money? Are you just, are you just giving tarot community a bad name? Because a lot of people do give the tarot community a bad name. A lot of people who don't understand tarot or people who don't really understand the divination community or the spiritual community, they think that people who read tarot readings are fortune tellers that will tell you that there's a curse on your family, and they will just light some like bizarre incense and create this really creepy atmosphere. They will prey on your vulnerabilities, make you feel like a victim, make you feel like you need to spend money to break this whatever curse that's placed on you and your family that is just stopping you from gaining any kind of good fortune. So there's always that stereotype, right? And I think it's still sort of in the public consciousness because I think there are people who do prey on people's vulnerabilities, and usually people who fall prey to that kind of scam is, I think, usually people who don't really understand tarot and don't really understand the divination community. There's someone outside, and then this being their first experience, then obviously they're going to have a bad impression of what tarot is and what tarot can do and what other means of divination can do. So I think there's that. I think there's this sort of anxiety about not wanting to come from a bad place, because I think most people who do tarot, doesn't matter what spectrum you're on, like doesn't matter what perspective that you have, you could be more on the spiritual side, you could even be more on the fortune telling side, you tell people and you give people predictions about their future and give them advice on how they can navigate their future. Like, doesn't matter where you land on the spectrum. I think when you're good, when you have a good practice, when you aim to have a good practice, I think the ultimate goal is to empower your client through your particular perspective and in your particular, in your unique way. So I think most people will want to be of service in some way. So I think that's why there's that guilt. It's like if you don't have this intention or desire to be of service, then doesn't mean you're like a bad person, or if you're like a bad tarot reader, or if you're like some kind of psychopath, or you're just trying to give the tarot community a bad name. What I would say to that is, don't worry about that. Because you can't be someone you're not. You can't force yourself to be someone you're not. You can't force yourself to want something that you don't want. And I believe that, it can be a struggle when you're trying to reconcile with like who you're supposed to be and what a tarot reader should look like, and what it needs to look like, what a online, say, a tarot reader who has an online business, what they need to do in order to make a living, etc. I think there's like a lot of new grounds to be discovered. I think this is sort of like relatively a new thing, that you get to do readings online, and you get to help people online, and you get to build an online business based on tarot and based on your personal message. So I think there's still a lot of paths to be discovered. So if you're feeling a little confused, if you're feeling like you're a misfit or you don't really belong to any kind of specific lane, I get the confusion. Like, I understand what that feels like, but in a way it's sort of exciting because we get to be the pioneers of the industry, right? We get to be pioneers of the online business community, tarot-centric online business community. We get to explore what we are able to create, and we can pave a path for the people who are gonna follow us, follow our footsteps. So that's kind of cool, right? Like, if you think of it this way, if you can't find previous footsteps to follow, that means you're making new ones, and then more people would start to walk the same path as you. You're gonna find people who are resonating, who resonate with you. This is sort of like my, like, at least that's how I experience it. Like, that's how I feel, because the more I follow my path, the more I stay true to myself, the more I stay true to what I want to create through the lens of tarot. Ow. I just banged my fingers on my desk. Like, the more I did that, the more I found people who are like me, who didn't really belong to any lane, who are creators and artists who have like a whimsical and fantastical sense of the world. And I think the more you venture into your own kingdom and explore that part of the map, the more you're gonna see other adventurers and travelers who are also heading towards the same direction. So I think that's incredibly cool, in spite of all the confusion and I guess the some of the additional navigation that you have to do, because it's new. Like it's sort of like a path that has not been trodden. So I think it requires more effort, but I think it's going to be worth it. Like it's, like I've come this far. I sort of figure out what I want to do. I'm sure that journey isn't over yet, but I feel incredibly grateful and I feel incredibly fortunate that I'm someone who doesn't really fit a traditional lane. And having that said, I think everybody has a unique offering, everybody has a unique gift. And yeah, so if you're feeling guilty about not wanting to help people, like it's not that you don't want to help people, you just probably don't want to be a spiritual counselor, or you don't want to be a guide or a mentor. Not everybody has a temperament for that. And I'm not saying like you have the inability to do it, it's just not who you are, and that's fine. There are other ways of helping people. And I think as long as you're showing up every day, you're being the best version of yourself, and you're always trying to align yourself to your highest good, you're always creating and expressing yourself in an honest way, and if you're expressing your most authentic and creative self, the world can only benefit from that. Like there's no way that the world's gonna lose or miss out if you are being yourself. It's always gonna be a win-win situation, because authenticity and honesty breeds more authenticity and honesty. So it's like you have to give the world the best version of yourself, the most authentic version of yourself. Otherwise, you would be doing yourself and the world a disservice, because you're not serving your purpose. So even if your destiny or your purpose isn't a spiritual counselor or some kind of mentor guide figure who has the obvious agenda and intention and mission statement to help people, you're gonna help people in your own unique way. So just like me, right? I mean, I'm not particularly a counselor, mentor, guide, coach person, but I want to inspire people with my art. Sometimes I would just draw like a piece of little doodle that's very funny, that has like a little bit of truth in it, but it's like mostly lighthearted. And then some people would message me and they would tell me that this is the cutest thing they've ever seen, and it's also very energizing. So people have different ways of showing up in the world, and people have different ways of being positive forces in the world. And just because you don't feel like you want to help people directly, as in like actually being a presence and holding space, holding sacred space for them, doesn't mean you're not holding space. It doesn't mean you're not holding space in other ways. Doesn't mean you're not creating spaces. You may be creating spaces in people's hearts. Maybe you're not physically or spiritually, emotionally holding space for them, but maybe what you create is opening up a window or a door in their hearts. Maybe what you're doing is giving them the tools and the strategies and the structures that they need so they could hold space for themselves. You're not really holding space for them, but you're giving them the materials and the tools. So there's different ways of helping people. There's different ways of showing up for people. Just because you don't want to help people doesn't mean you don't want to help people. Epic conclusion of this video. But yeah, so I want to share this video. I want to make this video to let you know that if you're struggling with this, with this particular sentiment, I think all you need to do is just be yourself. Just be the best version of who you are, and because however you want to show up for yourself and for the world is how the world is going to benefit, and that's how the world's going to appreciate you. That's how the world that is the space being held. You being yourself and you holding space for yourself is, I'm having an epic download here. You holding space for yourself is the way you hold space for others, if that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's all I have to say. I actually managed to not go on and on in this video. I usually just goes to like 40 minutes. But yeah, and I hope wherever you are on your journey, wherever you are on your map, I hope you're having a blast. I hope it's been an adventure for you, and if not, you should see it as an adventure, because it is. And if you're like me, who's maybe more an artist, creator, or maybe you're someone else, well, let's let's travel together. Let's find a new path for us misfits, and let's create something new that the world has never seen before. And then I'm sure it will be awesome. And yeah, let's continue to support each other on our journeys. And thank you for checking out this video, and feel free to check out my other videos on my channel. I've made some other goofy stuff. To be honest, like, speaking of misfits, I don't even know what the focus on my channel is, to be honest. I guess just everything that's me, which is the focus. Anyway, until next time, be the hero of your own story. I honestly want to change my tagline. It's kind of like outdated. But until next time, I will see you soon.